this week is a really interesting topic for me, the inner critic. And it comes up so much in the work that I do with writers, this voice in the mind that is critical, that really wears us down. The reason that I talk about the concept of befriending the inner critic is to start to shift the way that you're interacting with this voice. Because more often than not, when you hear that voice, the reaction is a negative reaction. The reaction is that we hate the voice, that we wish it wasn't there. But essentially, that voice is a part of you. So when we learn to befriend the inner critic, what then shifts is that we are beginning to think of ourselves in a more positive way. And of course, when we start to think of ourselves more positively, we feel better. And of course, when we feel better, we write more. So I want you to imagine that that voice of the inner critic is essentially your safety coordinates. It's a voice that's trying to just keep you in a certain place. So anytime you want to come out of that place, the voice comes up because it knows that your reaction to that is to step back, to stop. So for example, you're setting out to write and the voice might say, you're no good at this. And often, if it says it enough, it can stop you in your tracks. And so it keeps you in this same terrain. The trouble is, if we listen to that voice, if we stick to those coordinates, the terrain remains the same. It's a bit like walking in a very small area with a rain cloud above our heads, because we believe what that voice is saying. We believe that we're no good. We believe that we're never going to amount to anything. And so when we're in that place of belief, it is this constant rain cloud above our heads. And so we're going about our daily life feeling pretty negative about what we're trying to do, and with little hope that our writing is going to amount to anything. No longer are you having to take very small steps in this very constricted place, but you can start to become much freer. And I don't think there's a single writer that I've spoken to who hasn't said at some point that they want to feel freer in their writing. Who doesn't want to feel like they can just write whatever they want to write and that it's going to be okay? Take one common phrase that your inner critic likes to dish out, and I want you to shift it to give that phrase potential. For example, if I take a common phrase that I hear my inner critic say, you're no good. Okay, so that's the common phrase, one thing that your inner critic says, for me, you're no good. And then I'm going to shift it to give it potential. So the way that I'm going to shift it could be, with practice, you could be amazing. The reason that this is so important is when we hear that voice, the inner critic, saying, in my case, you're no good, if I listen to it and I stay within the same territory, I'm acting as if that's true. I'm hearing it and I'm saying, oh yeah, it's true, so I'm going to stop what I'm doing. And so there becomes no way out. I become continuously stuck in a place where I'm no good with my writing. As soon as we start to shift our reaction to it in the, okay, currently I may not be any good, but that can change. So we start to look at the possible way out. I'm no good, but with practice, I could be really great. Can you imagine how I feel sitting here typing on this typewriter? Suddenly that terrain begins to open up again. It begins to say, okay, I'm no good at the moment, but if I practice, if I write every day, if I really keep at it, oh my God, I'm going to be amazing. And so no longer are we in this very confined space, but we are beginning to explore the territory out there, knowing that the more we explore, the more chance we have of improving with our writing. So I want to make sure that you're really beginning to embed this learning and you're integrating it into your life and your writing day. The next time that you hear your inner critic, what are you going to do? So make a note of that. Specifically, what are you going to do the next time that you hear your inner critic based on the learning that's come out today? So get really clear about how your response is going to be so that you start to shift that old cycle of hearing the inner critic, being frustrated, getting into a place of struggle, but rather you now know that the next time you hear your inner critic, there's going to be potential for a positive shift. There's going to be potential to take hold of that sunny day. I'm really looking forward to deepening the practice and continuing work in a week's time. I'll see you then.